Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Hey, what's up, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions, answer them here in video format. Ton of fun things to talk about after the Browns preseason opener. Ton of questions about the roster still. I just want to acknowledge, ain't it nice in any circumstance, in any context, when the Browns win? And don't it feel better? It feel like the sun been shining brighter, the food done tasted better. And look, I get it, it's the preseason, and these wins don't mean much as far as what the Browns' record is going to be in the regular season. But like I mentioned this last year during the preseason. I remember talking about this, and it leading to the dreadful feeling that we had that started the season, right? And I know expectations were high in the offseason, but once like OTAs, mini camps, and training camps start, like you could just feel those expectations like crashing to the ground. And then the preseason was a big part of that. And I thought one of the reasons why the lead up to that season felt so bad was, if you were a Browns fan, they lost the postseason game in 2023. Yeah, 2023. They lost the postseason game. They lost the last game of the season versus the Bengals. So the last time you saw the Browns win was like December of 2023. And then you did not watch the Browns win anything in any context, regular or post or preseason. You didn't watch them win a single game until I think maybe that last preseason game they won. And if it wasn't the last preseason game, it was the second week versus Jacksonville. That's a really long time to go. And that's going to affect you, right? Winning feels good no matter the context, and better than winning, especially in the preseason context, is just feeling better about your team, feeling better about your young guys. I think there's a lot to feel good about with this draft, right? We're talking about being excited about a quarterback that you drafted in the 5th round. That's enough to save a whole draft class right there. Like if Shedeur Sanders ends up being a starter, that pick alone is enough to save your draft class, right? The same way that nobody cares what happened in the 2023 or 2022 draft with the San Francisco 49ers, because Brock Purdy was the 7th round pick, and that ended up, being a big hit for them. So if Shedeur is what he looks like he has the possibility to be, and what people talk about him being, then like this draft is an amazing success for Andrew Berry. And that's not even considering that Mason Graham looks really good. He looks like he's lost some weight. Carson Swissinger looks really good out there. We have not seen QUINSHON yet, and that situation certainly is very, very disappointing to have to deal with, especially when you're watching somebody that the Browns fans wanted in Travion Henderson, rush for 100 yards in the preseason. That's not fun. But I mean, we've seen good things out of Harold Fainin in camp. Dylan Sampson has had some good things in camp, right? Like, you look at that draft class in total, and remember, for a draft class to really be good, you really only got to hit on like your top 2 of your 3 top picks, right? Like, you do that normally, people think of it as a good draft. And it looks like the Browns have a good chance to hit on much more than that. And I think that's a great feeling to have, right? The big question coming into this offseason, and I thought Andrew Berry had to deal with this offseason, was, hey, are you the guy? And right now, it's hard to tell because time will ultimately tell on this, right? If Shedeur Sanders is good, if the Browns draft class is as good as it looks right now. But right now, how he handled the Miles situation, how this draft looks, this feels like there was a fork in the road for Andrew, whether we were going to consider him as good or not. And he stepped clearly into that good realm, right? And if that's where he is at the end of the year, that's how we feel about him, that's a great place to be in, because now you're talking about 2 first-round picks and feeling really confident in your scouting staff and what you're able to do. And hopefully that's going to jumpstart this team back to, championship contention, or not even back to. They weren't really championship contenders, but that will jumpstart them into finally contending for a championship. And that would be a great thing. But nonetheless, let's get into the comments. Well, the questions. Luke says this: how confident am I in Ronnie Hickman's ability to fill a bigger role this year, and how do you think he will perform? I don't think the question is, can Ronnie Hickman fulfill a bigger role? Because I don't think his role is any bigger than it's been before. I think the question is, can Ronnie Hickman go from being a solid starter, right? Like somebody you could put out there, he's not going to mess it up, he could babysit a little bit, to someone who could be an impact player? That's the big question for Ronnie. We'll see what that looks like. You know, I don't think I noticed him too much when he played in the preseason game, but he only played for like a couple drives. But that's the big question for Ronnie Hickman, right? Year 3, what does that look like for him? I thought he was pretty solid his first year. Second year was a bit up and down. Year 3, that's where you want to see, hey, is this guy going to be a playmaker, or is he just going to be a guy who can hold down the safety position? Crazier things have happened. Like, the Browns have had success with undrafted free agents in the past at that position. It's been not the same people, obviously, but like Tashawn Gibson is the one I think of. So it's not out the realm of possibility that you can get a starter, an impact starter at free safety from a UDFA guy. DSSD says this: hey, Q, the secondary seems very thin right now. Who are some guys that you expect to see take advantage of this opportunity? I don't know. That's my big concern, right? If I thought there were guys who could step up and take the opportunity, I wouldn't be complaining about the secondary as much as I am right now. I think that's why I've been concerned about it, is because I'm watching Cam Mitchell get a lot of opportunity, not really take advantage of it. I'm watching Miles Harden, look good when he gets some opportunity, but not look ready for first team reps. And I'm just wondering who's really going to take that throne right now. Like, I kind of want to see what Tony Brown can do in Cam Mitchell's spot. And that's not necessarily a great thing. I think the guys who are going to take advantage of this opportunity probably aren't on this team right now, whether they be in college and you're going to draft them next year, or they are, guys at the bottom of other teams' rosters that the Browns are going to try to bring in and turn something out of, because it just doesn't look like it's on the roster right now. That's my big concern about them. Zen, with this question, what should I or we be looking at in terms of Mason Graham and Carson Swissinger? Defense is kind of hard to evaluate, in my opinion, other than stats, but that only shows you one side of the story. What are some key things you want to see them be able to do? When you watch plays get made, you want them to be a part of it, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Is Carson Swissinger consistently a part of plays being made? Is Mason Graham consistently a part of plays being made? I think that's the first thing that you look at. When you watch a run play, it's one thing to get to the end of the play, find a result, and see the guy who made the tackle give that guy a helmet sticker, right? Like, that's always easy to do. What I like to do during run plays is like rewind it all the way back and try to pinpoint where was the exact failure in this run play for the offense and who caused that failure, right? Because that's how you start to see a guy like Mason Graham knock down dominoes, right? Or somebody like Carson Swissinger knock down some dominoes. Maybe they're not the guy who makes the tackle, but they're in on the play. They had an effect on the play. That's really the most important thing to really measure, right? And it does get tough, especially when you get to Myles Garrett's level, where Myles is going to affect every play, whether he's in the play or not, just because he's Myles Garrett and the whole game plan revolves around avoiding him, right? So that kind of impact is really what I look to evaluate when you look at a guy like Mason Graham, when you look at a guy like Carson Swissinger. Are they a part of the play, right? They might not be the sole guy making the play, because sometimes it's hard to just be the sole guy making the play at their positions. But are they in on it? Are they causing stuff? Are they knocking down dominoes, right? That's really the stuff that you want to see from guys in that front seven. That stats really can't tell you if they're doing or not, right? Because it's one thing to win a rep one-on-one. Maybe you get to the quarterback, maybe you don't. But if you're constantly knocking down dominoes in the run game, or you're constantly, making protections a lot harder to hold in the pass game, then you're going to be one of the more effective players at your position if you're Carson or Mason, you know. Wolf says this, KQ, I like Sanders, but it takes time for his style of QB to fully reach their peak. Even one of the best quarterbacks ever played, Peyton Manning, rookie year was completely cheeky, set records, 28 interceptions, had a 3-13 win-loss record. So I believe I should keep our expectations low for year one. Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about comparing him to Peyton Manning because I feel like that trope has run its course in the NFL. And I do think the league is a lot different from the league that Peyton Manning entered as a rookie, right? So I don't know if bringing up Peyton Manning's rookie year is as valid as it used to be, right? Maybe in like 2010, like that was a really pertinent thing to do. But the league has changed a lot, right? The league seems to be more quarterback friendly over the last 5-6 years than it's ever been before. Quarterbacks, while they still do take time, don't necessarily take as much time and don't have the drastic flex in their career that like a Peyton Manning had. It's a little different. I wouldn't expect Shador to put up Peyton Manning rookie numbers this year. I think that would be devastating for him. And also, you got to consider Peyton Manning got away with all of that because he was the number one overall pick. And when you're the number one overall pick, you're going to get 3-4 years before anybody makes a determination on you. Shador Sanders does not have that kind of leeway, and he's very aware of that, right? And I think that's an important thing to take note of. So I don't think he thinks that that's something that like should get kept under, well, it should be cool if he does all of that. He knows in order for him to keep the job, he has to take it. So, you know, if he goes out there and he plays, I think the expectations are that he's able to provide you a serviceable amount of quarterback play if he wants to keep the job, because he's just not going to be guaranteed the amount of time a rookie Peyton Manning was guaranteed. And it's not that era anymore. I mean, like, look at Anthony Richardson, dog. Like, people don't even want to give him a whole season, you know, and he was like the number 4 or 5 pick in the draft. Nobody wants to give him a full season, you know. Even when you're that high of a draft pick, teams ain't really trying to sit through this anymore, right? So, yeah, I think the days of you having a Peyton Manning type rookie year and just being able to get away with it, probably over with. I don't think teams are as patient anymore, and I don't think teams feel like with how the league has advanced to be more quarterback friendly that it's even necessary to be that patient. Sufi says this, with Judkins turning down a speedy trial and pushing this out, do you expect him to play since the league waits on punishment? From what I hear, they expect a conclusion to this whole thing sooner than later. And the whole turning down a speedy trial thing isn't because this whole thing's going to be pulled out. I think there's going to be some kind of settlement relatively soon. And once there's a settlement, the ball will start rolling on other stuff. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen. At least what I've heard is going to happen. We'll see. We'll see. This is a strange situation. Max Out Dojo says, what in the wide world sports are the Browns going to do about kicker? D-Hop still seems cooked. There is a definitive problem that I feel should be corrected after last season. Think they are waiting for final cuts or just riding D-Hop in the hopes if he'll figure it out. I think it's the same exact thing that went down with not Cody Parkey. What was his name? I cannot believe I am blanking on his name. Cade York. I think they're doing the same exact thing that they did with Cade York, which is they're going to let D-Hop either kick himself into this job or kick himself out the job. And if D-Hop kicks himself out the job, they will waver around a 7th round pick and get somebody else to do it. I think that is truly what their plan is. I don't think they have any interest in Smite being the kicker. There's just no interest there. I think it's either D-Hop or you wave around a 7th round pick and you see who comes sniffing, right? But that's probably going to be the move here, right? You know, if D-Hop still looks cooked by the end of preseason, they'll just trade for another veteran and hope that works out. which isn't the worst strategy in the world. I think everybody wants something a bit more immediate, but if they switch out the kicker, that's not a position where I think it matters how many reps he gets in camp with the team. I don't really care, dog. You kick, you know what I mean? It's the same plays for every playbook. That's part of the job. So yeah, I think that's what they're doing. Millie Moff says this: I didn't catch all of his reps in the game, and I saw plenty of double teams that could explain it, but I don't remember seeing Graham pop out at any point. He had a couple of plays in that preseason game. I'll break it down once the film comes out. But I thought Mason looked pretty good. He did get double teamed a fair amount, but handled those double teams well. When he got one-on-ones, he did a good job, being able to break free from offensive linemen. Yeah, I think Mason Graham's going to be pretty good. I think it's pretty clear. All right. Next one comes from Anthony Lathan, who says this: would you move Sanders' ceiling from Tua to Russell Wilson after seeing his quickness translate to an NFL level? All right. He was faster than I thought. He's not Russell Wilson. Okay. I think Russell Wilson, and I'll start on this tangent. I'll get to Shedeur in a second. I think Russell Wilson, and how athletic Russell Wilson was, has so greatly been downplayed over the years. Russ ran 4.5. Like, go look at Russ in Wisconsin when he runs the ball, and tell me if, like, Sanders ain't running that fast. Russ was a legit two-sport athlete. Had a NFL contract and an MLB contract. We don't have to compare Russ to Shedeur. I don't think they're the same caliber of athlete. And that's not disrespectful to Shedeur. Russ is just that good of an athlete. Like, he was a pretty special athlete for his time at that position. That being said, I don't know if I'm changing my ceiling on Shedeur Sanders after one preseason game, right? Like, I feel comfortable with saying, like, right now it looks like somewhere between Teddy Bridgewater to Tua, and I'm talking about Teddy before the ACL injury in Minnesota. I haven't seen anything to move me off of this, right? Like, I wasn't low on Sanders, so nothing that he did on Saturday really shocked me. He's looked how I've expected him to look, very accurate. Sometimes he has some bad pocket habits. He's still trying to clear those, but also battled back with moments of just standing in the pocket and dealing. So all in all, it was an impressive day for Shedeur. I didn't see anything that changed my mind about him overall as a prospect. But again, I'm not as low on him as some people were, like after the draft especially. Like, I thought he was always, I was surprised Pittsburgh didn't take him, right? Like, I thought he was always about pick 220 and beyond, right? Like, pick 20 and beyond, he makes a ton of sense as a quarterback selection. I thought he was a definite second-round pick. I don't know how he didn't go before, like, a Will Levis or even a Jackson Dart. But we'll see if I end up being right on that. But, yeah, I didn't see anything that changed my ceiling on Shedeur, but, there's plenty of time for that to happen, right? Shedeur starts balling out during the regular season. If he starts running away from guys during the regular season, then we can reevaluate this. But I think Russ is a bit much, though. We really sleep on how athletic Russ was in his prime, man. We really do. One of the best athletes I've ever seen at the quarterback position, pound for pound, right? Obviously, Cam Newton is the best. And then you got guys like RG3 who had their moments, Andrew Luck. But pound for pound, man, Russ was something to watch in 2012, 2013, 2014, when he still had that burst. Darth says this: if you got to interview Andrew Berry and the coaching staff, what would your one hard-hitting question be? Honestly, I would ask a question to get information. If I knew I was going to get like a honest, detailed answer, I would ask everybody who their favorite quarterback prospects have been in the last 5 drafts, just to see if there's some kind of consensus there, to see if there's some kind of pattern emerges, to really get a grasp on it when Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski individually close their eyes and think about what the ideal quarterback for this team is. what kind of quarterback are we talking about, you know, and who in the league closely resembles that vision, right? Because I think that's the thing that we're not clear on is what is the vision at quarterback for this team going forward. But that's it for Q&A. You guys have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.